After speaking to her in depth myself, there is another truth that I am 100% certain of.
The truth is finally revealed in the season 1 finale of Cruel Summer, so let's break down the season and find out just what happened. What's going on, you lovely people? Lisa here, and the end of Cruel Summer Season 1 has finally arrived. It has been a wild 10 episodes, and now we're finally going to find out the truth when it comes to Jeanette and Kate, and who was telling the truth the most, I guess you could say. Also, good news for you guys who love this show, because Freeform has renewed it for a second season. It's one of their most watched shows, I think, of the season, if not ever. And yeah, more mysteries are coming our way in 2022, but unfortunately we don't really have any more details other than it's getting a season 2. So no idea if it's going to follow the same characters or one character from this season, or if it'll have a new story with the same actors or just a new story with new actors. We're going to have to wait and see, and I will have an update for you whenever that news gets announced. Now, as you've probably guessed, this is a spoiler warning for those of you who don't want to know what happens on the season finale of this show. Although if you're one of those people, I'm not really sure why you clicked the video, but thank you anyway for the click. Diving into what's gone on this season, we're gonna start with a quick rundown of the first 9 episodes for those of you who happened to click on this video only wanting to know how the show ended without actually seeing any of the whole season. Some people do that. They just don't want to waste their time watching an entire season. They'd rather just watch, one thing that says, here's what happened, here's how it ended. If you do want to see, though, the more in-depth recaps of every episode from the season, there's a playlist right over here. Now, for those of you that have seen all the episodes or my recaps and you only want to know about this final 10th episode, there's a time code to skip ahead down in the description. Okay, so all season long, it's been a she said battle. Team Jeanette versus Team Kate. The events of the show take place over 3 different years, 1993, 94, and 95, which is a fun blast to the past with all the 90s fashion. The 90s music is so on point in this show, and much more. Now, we have 15-year-old Jeanette Turner, who is what you would probably classify as a quirky, nerdy, eccentric girl. She has a loving family and best friends Vince and Mallory. But she just longs to be popular and pretty. She very much envies popular girl Kate Wallace, who seems to be everything that Jeanette's not. Kate's blonde, she's beautiful, she's rich, and has the cute boyfriend. One summer, though, Kate goes missing, and when she's found, she accuses Jeanette of having seen her trapped in her captor's basement and not doing anything about it. Kate's captor is revealed to be Martin Harris, the new vice principal at the high school, which adds an even creepier element to this story. So now Jeanette has become the most hated person in America. Her life has been ruined. Her parents have split up. Yeah, nothing's looking too good for her. While Kate is also trying to piece back together her life after the traumatic events of being locked and abused in a basement. Her parents' relationship is pretty rocky, and her relationship with her mom still hasn't gotten any better. Now, Jeanette and her lawyers decide to sue Kate for defamation after Kate calls out Jeanette on that national TV interview for seeing her and not doing anything about it. In Kate's absence, Jeanette has turned popular and taken over Kate's life, including dating Kate's boyfriend Jamie, becoming best friends with Kate's friends, and ditching her own 2 friends, Vince and Mallory. Along the way, bits and pieces of the truth finally come out. While Jeanette says that she only entered Martin's house once in the summer of '93 to play hide and seek with Vince and Mallory in order to cross an item off their summer bucket list, it turns out Jeanette got addicted to the rush and broke in many times when Martin wasn't home, leaving the possibility that she could have seen Kate at some point in the basement. Now, Jeanette is really holding on to this lie, even lying flat out to her mom and her dad. On the opposite end, Kate maintains that she was kidnapped by Martin, who offered her a ride, then drugged her with a drink and put her in the basement. Along the way, we see Kate end up finding someone to talk to about her trauma besides her therapist. She finds someone in the chat room who she actually doesn't know is her stepsister, Ashley. You see, Kate wouldn't open up to Ashley in person, so Ashley thought that this was the way to help. Now, it does get Kate to open up about what really went on in Martin's house. Basically, she reveals things that could ruin her reputation as well. We find out Kate wasn't actually kidnapped. Instead, she was groomed by Martin Harris, who she believed was a friend, and she went to his house willingly after running away from home after a huge fight with her mom because she thought he was a safe adult to talk to. You see, by this time, Martin has said all the right things to Kate, fed upon her little schoolgirl crush, and well, unfortunately, she stayed at his house willingly because she thought that they could have a relationship. Kate confesses all that in her chat, which ends up coming to bite her in the ass as her stepsister Ashley is actually friends and hooking up with Jeanette's brother Derek. He ends up seeing the chats on Ashley's computer and gives them to Jeanette, who gives them to her lawyer. Now, as the girls prepare for court, Kate's still trying to unlock some of her trauma which she can't remember, including what happened the night before she was rescued and who Annabelle is. That's a name that she just remembers, and she says that she met Annabelle that night but can't remember anything else. Kate has also become close friends with Jeanette's ex-friend Mallory, who this whole season has been giving off some shady kind of vibes. She wasn't always the best friend to Jeanette, so how can you believe that she's trying to change and be a good friend for Kate? Is that really what she's up to? Alright, so now we've come to the actual incident in question. Did Jeanette really see Kate in Martin's basement and not do anything to help her out so that she could maintain her new life as Kate 2.0? Well, we in fact learn on Christmas Eve while Martin was at the mall, Jeanette saw him and decided to go break into his house for what we're assuming is the first time in a while. Kate was at Martin's alone and still living upstairs. Now, after hearing someone try to open the door, Kate ran and hid upstairs while Jeanette came into the house and stole a snow globe. Jeanette then heard a noise and ran out of the house, but not before dropping her necklace and taking a glance upstairs, but not seeing anything from what we could see. Kate then comes downstairs and looks out the window and sees a hooded figure, what she thinks making eye contact with her, and then riding away on a bike. So Kate is maintaining that she saw Jeanette, but Jeanette is still positive she did not see Kate that night. Then we learn Kate was put in the basement on Christmas after she decided she wanted to go home and Martin tricked her and locked her down there. So now we are up to the trial and the events of this final episode where we get to see how it all ends. It is time to see who wins this trial, who Annabelle is, or maybe what, and if Jeanette or Kate is more in the right or wrong. The events of the final episode take place on October 3rd over our 3 years. We're at the trial in 1995, and both lawyers make their opening statements to the jury, with Jeanette's lawyer saying that while there's a lot of sympathy for what Kate went through, it doesn't change the fact that Kate broke the law when she went on the Marsha Bailey show, spreading false information about Jeanette. Kate's lawyer, though, is saying that Kate did not knowingly spread false information. She only said what she was pretty sure she saw and was true. We also learned Jeanette and her family are suing Kate's family for $11 million, which would absolutely bankrupt and ruin Kate's family. We then go back to 1994 real quick to see Kate's interview on the Marsha Bailey show. Kate goes rogue, goes on the show and accuses Jeanette by name of seeing her, which of course catches Jeanette and her dad off guard as they watch because legally Kate should not have done that.
She can't do that. She can't name me like that. Legally, she can't do that.
You weren't supposed to mention Jeanette by name.
Or at all!
Honey, you broke the law.
My turn, I guess.
Well, hence why in 1995, Kate's being sued. We also finally see in 1994 Jeanette chop off her hair into that old school Bieber, Jesse McCartney, Efron, JTT-esque swoop. Now, back to 1995 and the trial. We're at the end of day 1 of the trial, and Jeanette and Jamie are hanging out. They seem to have reconciled, and he's asking her how court went. She says in day 2 of the trial, her lawyer's going to be putting Kate on the stand, which will be good for Jeanette, but also might not make Jeanette any more likable. Jamie, though, says that he likes her, and they hold hands, and it seems like Jamie has chosen which girl he wants to be with, but it's kind of also like, really, Jeanette? You're going back to toxic Jamie? Like, this man hit you. He has a drinking problem. He's very immature and he needs to grow up. As for Kate, she is at home and she's in the chat room asking Bernicki, the screen name she thinks is a friend that she doesn't know is her stepsister just yet. She's asking her for advice because Kate's worried that she may slip up in court with her story because obviously Bernicki knows the truth of that Kate was not actually kidnapped at first. Well, the next day, Kate does a good job of sticking to her rehearsed story of how Martin kidnapped her, drugged her, put her in the basement. She, however, is thrown for a major loop when Jeanette's lawyer pulls out a page of that chat room transcript. The judge allows it, and they make Kate read the highlighted part in which she admits to going to Martin's house willingly. Now Kate is freaking out, and she meets with her lawyer afterwards. She's so mad and gets even madder when the lawyer reveals that her stepsister Ashley is the one behind the screen name. Now the lawyer really wants to know if Kate is keeping anything else from him, because they cannot afford to have any more huge bombs like that dropped on them during this trial. It could ruin everything. Ashley then tries to apologize to Kate through the chat room, but Kate wants nothing to do with it, as Ashley really broke her trust and crushed the hope that Kate was holding on to.
I thought I had found someone like me, who had been through hell and back and survived it. I thought that I was chatting with my future, and she doesn't even exist.
Kate then decides it's time to truly get down to the truth, and it's time to do what her therapist suggested to unlock the missing pieces from her memory, especially when it comes to Annabelle. So she picks up the phone, and we gotta wonder, who could she be calling? At first I was like, could it be like a hypnotist or something? Could she just be calling the therapist, or is it somebody else? Well, the next day, Kate skips trial and goes to Martin's house, which is all boarded up and abandoned. She wanders around for a little bit, then someone comes up behind her, the person that she called.
You really wanted to meet me here?
Yep, it is now time for the girls to finally get down to the truth of what they both think they saw. Kate knows that Jeanette broke into Martin's house on Christmas Eve. Now, Jeanette admits to it, but says she didn't go in the basement that day, which means that Kate obviously was not in the basement either. And while Kate still insists that Jeanette saw her, Jeanette flat out says she didn't see Kate. Kate then describes that night and the events that happened and how she hid upstairs after hearing Jeanette break in, steal a snow globe, all of that. Well, Jeanette left, and then when Kate came downstairs, she saw a hooded figure outside the window. Then Kate describes the bike she saw.
And I saw your bike with the stupid card on the wheel.
And well, yep, Jeanette is now breathing a huge sigh of relief for a number of reasons, which I'll talk about a little later. But for now, it's because it means Jeanette is not who Kate saw. It's just who Kate thinks she saw, because who Kate saw is none other than Mallory, which I feel like many of you actually predicted. You see, Mallory's bike has the playing card in the tire that makes noise. A lot of you pointed out the theme of those playing cards and thinking that it would come into play somewhere. Now, when Jeanette, Mallory, and Vince crashed the garden party in 1993, they ran off in such a hurry that Mallory and Jeanette traded bikes. So when Kate saw them from the driveway when she was leaving to get drunk at the park, she saw Jeanette get on the bike with the card, which is why Kate assumed it was Jeanette outside riding away that night on Christmas Eve.
Hey, that's my bike! Who cares? Go, go, go!
And now I know really that I gotta start paying even more attention to every single little detail on shows like this. Because if you go back and watch that scene in episode 9, which a couple of you commented that I missed, which, I mean, hey, I'm not perfect. I can't pick up everything. I don't know if anybody does except the writers of the show. But you said that in episode 9, if you go back, you can see the scene where Kate looks out the window and you see a hooded figure from like here up. You don't actually see the bike, but if you listen very closely, you hear that sound of the playing card in the tire, which gives it away that it's Mallory. So yeah, and I watched that episode not super loud, so note to self in the future self, to make sure the volume's pretty loud. But yeah, don't worry, it's not a case of, switched bikes again, because Jeanette can confirm it was Mallory that Kate saw, because as Jeanette was breaking in, we see that Mallory was riding by and saw Jeanette going up to the door and saw the back of a blonde woman in the window, not knowing it was Kate at the time. Mallory stuck around and hid behind the tree because she was really hoping she'd get to see Jeanette get busted, because what great karma for your ex-friend would that be? Well, when Jeanette didn't get busted, Mallory was pretty mad, and she had to wait until Jeanette rode off before picking up her bike, which was enough time for Kate to come back downstairs. We then see Kate stare out the window, and as Mallory looks into the window as well in the scene, it actually doesn't seem like Mallory could have known that was Kate. Kate had turned off the lights by then. You get the reflection of the lights from the outside. I don't think it was super clear that Mallory saw anybody in particular. But more on that actually in a bit. After this incident though, Mallory stormed over to Jeanette's house to confront her about being a liar and, well, just a flat out weirdo, because let's face it, I think no matter what, Jeanette's a freaking weirdo, which is mean to say, but it's true in this show. Jeanette then gives Mallory the snow globe and is like, why do you care what I've been doing? All of that, and so that's why Mallory has that snow globe that's hidden under her bed. It's the same snow globe, obviously, that we heard in the message that Kate left on Jamie's machine Christmas Eve. Now, after learning it was Mallory who saw Kate, it's obviously pretty upsetting news because Mallory has basically become Kate's best friend since she returned home. Kate understands now that she's made such a grave mistake and apologizes profusely to Jeanette. Kate wholeheartedly believed she saw Jeanette, and if she didn't think that that was right, she says she would have never accused Jeanette. Jeanette seems to accept this apology because, I mean, she's off the hook. She's kind of like, whew, even though she has a ton of other lies that could have gotten her in way more trouble and made her look even guiltier. Unfortunately, none of that's coming into play. She's just off the hook for the date in question that Kate thought she saw Jeanette on Christmas Eve. Well, after the apology, Jeanette then asks Kate about what really happened in the house with her and Martin. Kate explains it all, and then says she can't remember one thing and that she needs to do something. She has to go down in the basement to unlock the memory and asks Jeanette to go with her. Now down in the basement, there is a big blood stain on the carpet, and as both girls stand in front of the giant mirrors, which have produced so many theories on this show, it turns out that those mirrors really are only kind of a representation, I guess, of however you want to interpret it. How people could be two-faced or how looks are deceiving, any way that you want to interpret that. But they actually don't play in when it comes to like the theories about the two-way mirrors and other rooms on the side of the mirrors, stuff like that. We got ahead of ourselves. We just went crazy with those theories, right? But yeah, both girls are looking in the mirror and Kate finally starts to remember. The night before she was rescued, she says Martin came downstairs acting a lot different and he was carrying a box. He reveals that the police came to the house that day, so he knows it's only a matter of time before they get a warrant and come back. So he's essentially given up. He thinks there's only one way that this whole thing can end. He opens the box and inside is a gun, and what do you know, the gun is named Annabelle. Yeah, we kind of predicted that last video between all of us. I think that it was a weapon of some sort, and well, it's the gun, the same gun that Martin's father used to kill himself. So unfortunately, Annabelle is not some mystery person, twin, girl from Widow Falls, maybe Angela, none of that. It's just a gun. Martin then apologizes to Kate, says his goodbyes, basically telling her to go live her life, and then he points the gun to his head, but he just cannot bring himself to pull the trigger, so instead, he drops the gun on the floor, then walks towards the stairs and starts screaming and kind of banging on the wall. Kate then picks up the gun and, well, Martin tries his best to convince Kate to drop it, but she shoots him, and that's the shot that Jamie, Jeanette, and Vincent heard the night of Jeanette's birthday in 1994. In the first episode. Kate says that she then stayed with Martin's basically dead body all night and then called the police the next morning. So Jeanette's kind of like, well, why on the news did they say that Martin died in a police shootout? Kate says that the news must have just assumed that from hearing that Martin had a gunshot wound. And even Kate herself ended up internalizing that as what happened as well, which is why she could not remember the events of that day. She now realizes she killed Martin. She thinks she's the bad guy, but Jeanette actually tells Kate that's not true and no one could blame Kate for killing Martin, which is pretty true. She did it in self-defense. Kate again apologizes to Jeanette and says that basically she deserves to be sued, so Jeanette should just keep suing her, take the money, and run. But Jeanette reveals that none of this was ever about money.
All I ever wanted to just maybe feel what it was like to be like you. Not to actually be you, just I never felt popular or beautiful or enough. I just wanted to know what that felt like.
Kate then gives a press conference saying that she's 100% sure that Jeanette didn't see her that night and isn't the monster she's been made out to be, that Jeanette's actually a victim. So now, what is next? Kate heads over to Mallory's house where she finds Mallory trying to pack a bag for a quick exit, and she's even putting that snow globe in her suitcase. Kate confronts Mallory asking for the truth, so Mallory comes clean about what happened that night on Christmas Eve. Mallory says that she actually thought it was Martin's girlfriend or sister or something in the house because all she saw was the back of somebody with blonde hair. At that point, all anybody knew in town was that Kate was missing. It never clicked for Mallory that, that could be Kate in the window because someone who was kidnapped should not be wandering around freely in the house, right? Mallory reveals it was only when she saw the rescue of Kate on the news that she realized Kate was the one inside the house. Mallory then chose to not say anything in order to protect Kate, because if she would have said anything, Kate's secret about living freely, I guess you could say, in a sense, in Martin's house would have been out, and that would have ruined Kate's reputation and case. Instead, Kate had to reveal that secret in her own time. Mallory just then assumes that nobody in town wants her around, including Kate, so she's taking a Greyhound and says, Kate won't have to see her anymore, but it looks like Kate actually doesn't have any hard feelings towards Mallory. So now, all seems fine and dandy, right? You could just end the episode here. It seems like, in a sense, everybody got their happy endings. Kate cleared Jeanette's name. Kate finally knows the truth about what happened to her. She got the closure. She can move on. And she and Mallory are still friends. We have Jeanette and Jamie back together. The trial is over. Yeah, you could say that was a happy ending, right? Nope, it ain't over yet. So we skip ahead to a month later. Now it is Jeanette's turn to do an interview with Marcia Bailey about how she's dropped the lawsuit against Kate. She's gotten her name cleared. She's feeling a lot better. Marcia Bailey even apologizes to her as well. Now Kate and Mallory are at home watching this interview, but they decide they've seen enough and they go for a drive instead of finishing the rest of Jeanette's interview. Now at the end of Jeanette's interview with Marcia Bailey, she looks into the camera and starts to say something the same way Kate did in her interview in that first episode, and it's kind of like, oh crap, is she about to drop some bomb? Are we about to have some kind of twist or something like that?
To the girl who named me, who could have cleared all this up sooner, but didn't. Kate Wallace, I forgive you.
Well, yeah, no twist, but all it does is just add to Jeanette being kind of creepy. I mean, as much as I'm not a big fan of Mallory, she's not wrong when she said,
"What I'm watching is an absolute creep show."
Like, that, there, you could tell that Jeanette, it's like when she was watching that, Lifetime-ish movie about how to lie in court or how to seem likable in court, and she just kind of turned it on, and it was kind of believable. It kind of seems like that's what she's doing in this interview, and it gives me a little bit of chills, but yeah. Jeanette ended up getting everything she wanted. She's popular again, in a sense. The so-called sun is shining on her. She's famous. She's been vindicated, I guess you could say. She's got the attention this time, and it's positive, and it's what she craved, to be in the spotlight. Meanwhile, we have Kate and Mallory going out and dancing in the street, echoing what happened in the second episode. And, well, there's this moment that, I don't know, maybe I didn't see coming, but I think some others did. A kiss. Yeah, it seems like maybe Kate and Mallory are now more than friends. Is that something that I should have seen coming? I know that they were really good friends. They obviously cared about each other. I guess my mind doesn't automatically go to let's couple every person up with somebody else. I don't know. I'll talk more about that later, my thoughts on this episode. But it seems like, okay, now that should be the end of the episode, right? Everything seems back to normal. And I don't know if you want to call it normal, but at least calm again. Like, that should be it. But it's not, because it wouldn't be a good mystery thriller show if there wasn't some kind of really good cliffhanger or last-minute reveal. You see, there's still something Jeanette said in the first episode of this show that I feel like every viewer has not been able to forget.
They found Kate. Oh my god. Do you know where they found her body? Do they know who killed her?
Yeah. You remember how Jeanette asked if they found the body? It was such a quick response. It's kind of like, if Jeanette had indeed seen Kate Christmas Eve, that night, that's not what her reaction would have been, because she would have known Kate was living freely, in a sense, upstairs. Why would she be like, did they find her body? It's not like anything suspicious should have been happening. So Jeanette was not lying about seeing Kate specifically on the night in question, Christmas Eve. No one ever asked her about any other night. You see, the truth is, Jeanette did, in a sense, see, or rather hear Kate on another occasion after Kate was put in the basement. Yeah, now that is a way to kind of put a good button on this show with like this like reveal that could definitely blow some minds. You're like I wanted to give Jeanette the benefit of the doubt, right? And you're just like, no, she's in fact been a creep this whole time. And the fact that the scene is set to Olivia Holt covering Radiohead's Creep as Jeanette gives that creepy smile and stuff, and it's like, no, I'm not gonna open that door. And that Mallory even still called Jeanette a creep in 1995 after all of it was over. It just confirms that Jeanette has some mental issues and that she sucks. I mean, both girls made pretty awful mistakes, but it's kind of like, Jeanette, you're trash? Is that harsh to say? But yeah, that's basically how this show ends. Jeanette didn't lie about seeing Kate in Martin's house on Christmas Eve. That was really the only night she was asked about when it comes to the trial. No one ever bothered to ask her if she ever broke in another time. So yeah, so she just withheld a lot of the truth. And can you blame her for that? I don't know. Even if that night, that's at the end of this episode where she like goes to open the basement but doesn't and hears Kate saying all this stuff, that would be even harder to prove because, I mean, Kate didn't see her. She just heard a noise and assumed that somebody was there. It could have actually been Martin who had just ignored her, or a random noise, or anything. That would have been way harder to prove. Either way, I guess Kate did get some closure and can move on with her life, and I'm kind of glad she doesn't know that truth about Jeanette, because then it's just something that, you know, would have kept this wound open for her. I'm really not sure how I feel about Kate and Mallory being an item. Like I said, I liked their friendship in a way, even though Mallory always seemed shady. You know, she was there for Kate, but it was hard to think that maybe it was hard to not think she maybe had ulterior motives, or she just had this vibe about her. But we have seen how toxic of a friend Mallory was to Jeanette and Vincent. It wasn't just to Jeanette, it was kind of to both of them. And, well, seeing Kate kind of go towards another somewhat toxic, could be seen as toxic person, kind of breaks my heart. Same with Jeanette, though. You know, going back to Jamie, who's pretty toxic, but in a sense, Jeanette is also toxic. And like I said, she's pretty obsessed with keeping up her popular image and whatever, and she thinks she needs Jamie. But, you know, I didn't write this show, so if those are the happy endings for everybody and they're happy, you gotta go for it. Other stuff, we didn't really get any more info on what goes on with the relationships of both parental couples after the trial or anything, whether anybody gets back together, whether anybody gets actually broken up or whatever. The only other storyline that gets touched upon is Ben and Vince. You see, Jamie finally goes over to Ben's to apologize for driving drunk and getting him injured, then also tells Ben that he should stop blaming the wrong person for what happened. Basically lets Ben know that he knows about Ben's relationship with Vince, so we then see Ben go to apologize to Vince and ask for another chance whenever Vince is ready, or if he's ever ready to give that another shot. But yeah, that's how Cruel Summer Season 1 ended. The Annabelle reveal, it was a gun. Not that exciting to me, I guess, because I feel like we were building it up to be something it wasn't, but then by the fact that we got to the last episode and it hadn't been revealed yet, I feel like it wouldn't have made sense for the twist to be that it was some person out of nowhere. Maybe that's just me. I do think that the ending reveal of Jeanette knowing that Kate was in the basement was just a great way to end the show, gives it a little suspense, sort of leaves it open for season 2 and where it could go if they chose to keep any of the same characters. We know Jeanette's a little nutty. Maybe she goes off to college and finds another victim of sorts in another town where she's not as well known. I don't think they could pull it off in the same tiny Texas town, but who knows. Otherwise, I feel like it'd be cool, like I said, to keep the same format of the show, but choose a different type of case, whether you keep the same actors or not. Unanswered questions, I think we still have, we still didn't get to see Jeanette's transformation and when she really took over Kate's life. Like, that would have been interesting to see. Like, how did she do it? Are there any other unanswered questions? Yeah, but I guess we're gonna have to wait and see what they do with season 2, if they're gonna connect it at any point or not. So yeah, now it's time for me to hear from you guys. What did you think about how this show ended? Were you disappointed by any parts of it? Do you have any unanswered questions? What were your favorite moments, favorite reveals? Like, did you like the twists that they did? And let me know what you want to see in season 2. How would you like that format to go? Let me know all your thoughts, theories, whatever you want to leave down in the comments below. And after that, don't forget to check out all my other videos right over here and hit that subscribe button, because I will be back for season 2, recapping everything, even giving little news bits along the way if there's anything that's revealed and you don't want to miss it. As always, I'm Lisa. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, listening to me ramble all season long, and I'll see you next time, guys.